Hey guys, welcome to Thomas Guitars and Basses. Today we've got a very special guest for you. A warm welcome to my colleague. Thank you very much for spending some time with us and for being here. So how are you doing?
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here, Julie. I'm great. Yeah, happy to chat it up with you about bass and stuff.
You just recorded your solo album and I saw that you already got the masters.
Yes.
And I think you did everything on your own on this album. So can you tell me a little bit more about this?
Yeah, it was terrifying. That's the first thing I can tell you. I mean, I'm like I grew up playing sports as a kid, and I always loved team sports. I was never into like golf.
Okay.
For me it was always basketball, football, baseball, and I love the idea of a bunch of individuals coming together, being selfless, and coming together as a team for a greater good. And that's why both of my bands have way too many people in them. Like Snarky Puppy has like an army of people, and Bokanté has 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm good at that. I think I'm good at finding people who will work well together and giving them space to be themselves, while at the same time having like a concept and having a clear structure that everyone can kind of buy into, so that it's not just chaos and musical anarchy.
Yeah.
And basically every musical experience that I've ever had the chance to curate is using that kind of platform. And so for this record, I just did the exact opposite, which is like no help, no crutches, like just I'm gonna do everything. And I have to do it. And even if in a certain moment I think that someone else would play this better, which was every moment of the record, I'm not gonna do it. I'm going to challenge myself to and not just as a personal challenge. I mean, the idea is that if one person is playing everything, it's going to have a certain kind of... Oh, that was my camera. Oh my God. It's all going to hell in a handbasket, Julia. No, we got this.
That's okay.
Now, it's a little more secure now. I think we got it. Okay. Yeah, so the idea is that, that if one person is recording everything, then the record will have a certain kind of sound.
But did you always wanted to do that, like a solo album, or was it like very spontaneous to do that?
Yeah, it's funny because the document with all of the ideas for the solo album, my text edit document on my computer, it's called Pop Solo Album 2015 or something.
Okay.
So it was supposed to be recorded half a decade ago, but I never did it. Yeah. So it's a thing that's been kind of on my radar for a long time. But when COVID hit and I was like, trapped in a tiny apartment for...
Now is the time.
I finally wrote it. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And did you also like do the lead vocals and everything like that?
Unfortunately, I did. Yes, I did. I did
How
everything.
How was that experience? Because, I don't know, do you sing a lot in general?
Yeah, I've sung a lot on a lot of people's records. I think people don't know it because it's always backing vocals.
Yeah. But I think it's so different
different.
Like singing backing vocals and then lead vocals. That's
totally, you're exactly
totally
right.
Different.
You're exactly right. And that was the only thing about the record that that's a lie. Everything made me scared, but it was the thing that scared me the most. It was like playing percussion or whatever. It's like, that's going to be okay. It won't be great, but it'll be cool. And, maybe we'll get into some interesting, whatever. And I felt that way about everything. But the lead vocal was like, oh, because it's such a different mentality to carry the lyric in that way, in a non-team way. Because that's the thing about backing vocals is you're part of a team and you're supporting. So I'm always just kind of in this mode of like, my role is to support. And then when finally you're the thing that is being supported, it's like terrifying. Like for me, I felt like I was, in Titanic, what's the, when they're like on the front of the boat and, but but instead of the front of a boat with like, you know, a beautiful person behind you supporting you, it's like the edge of a mountain and you're in your underwear. You know what I mean? That's
Scary.
more how I felt. So it was super scary. But then it, you know, it's funny. What happened is I recorded the whole record with my co-producer and engineer, Nick Hard. Mm-hmm. And we did a couple days of vocal tracking, and I was like, Nick, you know what, man? I think I have to do this alone.
Okay.
So he just went home, and then I tracked all the leads actually in this chair, with this mic, just sitting here rather than in the tracking room with a producer. Like, just because I think I just needed to be able to try things and be alone with it, which was, I guess everybody has their process, you know, whatever. Bono tracks with like a 57 in the control room with the speakers on, but so for me, it was better to do it that way. I mean,
cool.
You know, God, yeah.
That's really cool. And you also played drums, right? But percussion.
Yeah,
like
so right.
No drum set, but percussion.
No, there's no drum set on the record. I'm studying some Turkish and Moroccan percussion instruments. So the idea was to fulfill the role of a drum set in a pop context, because it's pop music, this record, but to fulfill that role with atypical percussion instruments in the pop genre, you know. Well, I mean, if you're playing Moroccan pop, then there's darbuka and Moroccan pop.
Yeah.
So I was using like this bass ceramic darbuka called Dohola, and that in a few different sizes, and Moroccan castanets that are called krakeb, and you know, davul, which is like a wedding marching bass drum from Turkey. I mean, some other bendir and daf, and you know, instruments that you don't normally hear on a Bruno Mars record, basically.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun because it's interesting because it just opens new possibilities for what might seem like a normal groove. All of a sudden, it feels unique. You know?
Yeah. And when you wrote all those songs, do you have like a certain process where you start, like with the melody or with the bass line, or is it like every time it is really different?
I try to write differently. You know, I try to write some songs on piano. I try to write some on bass. I try to write some like humming into my iPhone walking down the street, just because the way that a song starts will definitely determine its journey.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, I love
because
that.
I love you love rhythm and everything. So
I'm the only musician in the world.
Why I'm asking how you start normally when you're writing your songs.
I mean, I do love rhythm. I mean, you know, I feel like more than me loving rhythm, it's that I'm less deficient rhythmically than I am melodically and harmonically. Okay. That like, sometimes I'm a bass player, you know, sometimes it's hard for me to come up with melodies. You know? Like I'm not a great piano player, you know. So for me, rhythm is like this thing that I feel less uncomfortable with versus harmony and melody. And I do find that no matter what instrument I write on, rhythm is the central element. Of everything. Mm-hmm. There's like, for me, like there are absolutely correct rhythms and incorrect rhythms when I'm writing something. Like if I write, you know, like, absolutely. Like if I'm playing a groove or something and then I reach a certain point and I put like an accent in a certain place, it really rings, it's like red or green in my mind. Mm-hmm. Like, wrong, you know? Or like, that's cool, yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
You know, like, it's almost like every song to me has like a clave.
Okay, yeah.
Like, or a system of laws that have to be obeyed, and you can break those laws, and it's not good, you know?
Okay.
It's weird, yeah, it's a weird thing.
No, it's cool. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's just there's no room for ambiguity for me in that. You know, when
it's really clear.
Very clear. When I'm composing things for me or when I'm doing an arrangement, yeah, absolutely. You know, kind of like if you're playing Cuban music, you know, they'll say like that rhythm is wrong. You crossed clave. Mm-hmm. Like for me, that can happen in any song. Like someone can play something that's just wrong, that it doesn't match with the rhythmic identity of the piece. It's strange, yeah. strange.
Yeah. And when is it going to come out? When are you going to release it?
Hopefully the record will be out at the end of June, yeah. Hopefully the 25th. That's the plan.
Yes.
Ooh.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe you'll just never hear from me again. I'll bury myself.
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be very cool. So,
we'll see.
Actually, you are a producer, you compose, you play, you manage. I don't know, would you miss something if you won't do all of this stuff? Or is it like a curse to be a musician in 2021? And I'm not mentioning the C word, so we're leaving that out. How do you feel about that?
I mean, you're younger than me, and you're a musician. You know, that's more a question that you would be able to answer. That you have to, right? You have to do everything.
What I was thinking about you, because I'm 10 years younger than you, exactly, and I don't know, when you began to study, there was YouTube was, I think, started at
2005.
Right, 2005, and I don't know, did you always go on the platform YouTube, or was it not so present when you started?
When Snarky Puppy made its first video and put it on YouTube, that was like the first moment in which everyone knew what YouTube was.
Okay.
So it was definitely I mean, I think we made our first video in like 2010 or something, So like the first 5 years of YouTube, it was, growing very quickly, but like 2010 was like the first moment where everyone was using YouTube, but it wasn't yet oversaturated with, people singing songs in their bedroom, or whatever. It was still very much like, felt kind of like new and wild and fun.
Yeah.
And so we got in at a great moment. We started making, Snarky Puppy started making these videos of us in a studio with an audience, with everybody with headphones. Like in this golden little period between YouTube not being popular and YouTube being so popular that you couldn't get any air putting your stuff on it, So we got very lucky. But I was never like, a huge YouTube person. It was just a logical step in terms of representing our music visually to people.
Yeah. But you had the time where you just went into the rehearsal room and practice without YouTube or anything, because when we are now practicing, we are in a rehearsal room and then everyone has YouTube and listen to that. And
oh, wow.
I don't know if we are not so experimental. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw this video the other day of this incredible drummer, one of my jazz drum heroes named Greg Hutchinson.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know.
And play with everybody,
Yeah.
And Greg it was funny because he made this video that kind of like stirred people up, because he was watching an instruction video of somebody on YouTube who was characterizing a thing that drummers do and assigned a name to it, and was like, yeah, so then that's what everybody should learn. You should learn how to do this thing. And Greg was like infuriated. You know what I mean? Because his whole thing is like, don't just copy something that someone just started doing this year. Like, learn vocabulary. He goes on this really funny rant for a long time, where he kind of just says the same thing over and over. But the thing that was so deep to me was where he just said, learn some vocabulary, And then he was kind of talking about this idea of like, I developed my vocabulary from being in a practice room and exploring and experimenting and finding what it was that resonated with me. And of course, through studying the masters and transcribing them and learning how to play just like them. But, when you transcribe a lot of people, you take a few things from each of them. Exactly. You take a part from all of them and it goes inside of you, and then you're just adding to your palette of colors, right? Yeah. And then you spend time in the room alone, or playing with other musicians or whatever, and really like you said, experimenting, and rather than, oh, this person, you know, played this last week, let me learn that. It's more like, you know, a deeper
when you're sort of
process.
flow and you're starting to play something and you're in completely different universe.
Totally. Yeah, and what it comes down to is that word vocabulary that Greg said, that really music is lingual, you know, I mean, it really is a language, and we need vocabulary to be able to express ourselves well. But at the same time, you know, the most important thing is that we're expressing ourselves in our own way. So I know what you mean. Maybe it's like a different climate now. People are like watching Instagram and like, oh my God, this got so many comments and so many hits, so I got to learn what this person did. Instead of like, no, don't worry. Like, my advice would be like, don't worry. Like, no one's gonna care about that video in a week. Like dig into some stuff that you really love and believe in and that touches you, and learn it and see what you can do with it, and spend time, you know, by yourself developing your own way of speaking through music but
your own musical fingerprint. Maybe.
Exactly. Because we're born with it, really, you know what I mean? And I think that I love that you use the word fingerprint, because that's what it is. It's that we are born being different from each other. We learn how to sound like a copy. It's not natural to sound like a copy, right? It's like we are born with this identity, and the more music that we ingest, and the more that we study, and the more people that we transcribe, and the more time we spend alone working on our stuff, the more that fingerprint becomes like pronounced. And you see it more, you know? And that's what all the greats have. All of them have that. You know it's them in one measure, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But did you always write music? Or was it like, okay, you went to college and everything, and then there was a point where you discovered your fingerprint, or how you want to sound like, and then start to write? Or was it like always the process of playing and writing?
For me, the writing was always first.
Okay.
Yeah, like the first time I picked up my brother's acoustic guitar and didn't know how to play anything. I mean, I didn't even know that guitars played chords the first time I wrote a song.
Okay.
I just plucked out single notes and wrote lyrics to the single notes. That was my first song. It was terrible. I still remember the song. And it will never, ever be heard. And, you know, I mean, but that was like, for me, it was always before the instrument was the idea of songwriting. Always.
That's cool.
And in Snarky Puppy, you know, that's why I started that band, really, was because I was writing songs and I just wanted to hear them played. And they weren't super jazzy, and so I had to pick people who were open-minded at a very conservative jazz school. And that's, for me, composition it's always been the thing that touches me most about music. I love a great soloist. It's awesome. You know, I love a great groove, but to me, it's like when things combine to tell a story that makes you think in a way that you haven't thought before. Like, to me, that's the most beautiful thing.
That's
you
so
know?
beautiful. I don't know. I think a little bit different, but that's just because of my classical background.
Are you a classical bass player first?
I played cello. So I started at the age of 8. And then with 16, 17, I also played the electric bass. And it's beautiful. I love classical music. But when you learn the instrument in the school, it's always the path that you learn a song and play it as good as possible. So the goal is different. So you want to interpret something and you want to play it as good as possible. So for me, it was very difficult to go to the writing process, because I always had my sheets in front of me, and the goal was always to interpret that as good as possible.
Okay.
So it's completely different, how it was in the childhood.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting.
It's also so interesting how much that stuff sticks with us, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Right?
It's inescapable. There's there's definitely guys in my band who grew up taking classical, lessons, and their practice routines now are trying to kind of like kill that old self and trying to grow in other areas. And then there's other people that never learned to read. So now when they're practicing, they're working on opposite stuff than the first kind of person, and it's so hard to shake where we come from. You know, it's interesting.
Yeah, you're living in Spain now, and
Yes.
I don't know I don't know, a year maybe?
Yeah, a little more, yeah.
But I think you moved a lot when you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
And how is it to live in Europe now, like from a musical point of view? Because I've never lived out of Europe, so I can't tell anything. But I would be interested how you feel about it.
Well, you know, the majority of the music that I play is Black American music, right? It's like jazz, funk, blues, rock and roll, soul, hip hop, gospel, you know. So naturally, it makes sense that the best scenes in the world for that music are in the country that it's from, right? So yeah, the US, I mean, as far as music scenes go, there's no comparison with being in New York or being in New Orleans or being in Dallas or Atlanta with being in Paris or Barcelona or, you know, talking about those genres. You know, there are great players here, but in terms of the way that you feel when you're in that scene, it's different. But I didn't move here to, you know, involve myself more deeply in Black American music. You know, I moved to Europe for life reasons, and also because the music that I'm studying now is North African and Turkish.
Yeah,
so
Morocco, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, Ganawa music. And so I'm now 1.5 hours away from Morocco flying, and I'm 2.5 hours from Istanbul flying. And so my teachers live there in those two places. So actually now I'm very, very close to the music that I'm studying.
Cool.
And, you know, Europe has beautiful and rich and deep musical traditions. You know, tonight as soon as we stop talking, I'm going to see Jorge Pardo, you know, who's a legend of flamenco, with Carlos Benavent, you know, incredible bass player. And, you know, on Friday I saw Vicente Amigo, an incredible flamenco guitar player. So, you know, I'm in Spain, so I'm putting myself in the Spanish stuff, in flamenco music.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible music, you know, it's so beautiful. And you can't find that in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know
but it's like you start at zero. Sometimes when you learn a new instrument and you hear a master and you think, oh my God, there's so many, or maybe I will never play like him because it's just like he grew up with that kind of music. Of
course. Yeah, but that's not the goal, though.
No,
you know?
It's not.
And I agree with you totally, because, you know, I'm 36 years old. You know, like, there's no way I'm going to, you know, start playing Comanche or something and then become the world's greatest, most authentic Comanche player, you know. It's too late for me now, you know. But it
makes so much fun, I think.
It totally does. And
I love it to explore and get to learn new things, even if you know you're not going to be the best.
Exactly. And I mean, I think you just have to know what you're trying to get from the thing. Just like with jazz school, like I didn't go to jazz school to become the world's best swing upright bass player. You know, I went to jazz school for a very specific purpose. And I tried to achieve what I wanted to achieve there and then use it in my own way. And so that's what I'm doing with oud or with dohola or gimbri or whatever, these instruments that I'm studying. I'm trying to learn them, and I'm trying to learn like real traditional stuff because I'm American. You know what I mean? I don't have music with a long history in my country. My nature is to think about how to create something fresh with things. That's all we have as Americans, because we don't have, like, Ganawa musicians have, like, you know, a 2,000-year-old musical tradition or something. Like, we, you know.
But that also is a positive thing, because I think in Europe, or when you've got a tradition, you maybe get stuck in the tradition because sometimes it's not allowed to go outside, you know?
Yeah, I think
that's just how I feel about this.
There's definitely pros and cons to both sides.
Yeah.
You know, and I agree with you absolutely. You know, I do find that people tend to be more open-minded you know, in American music circles rather than European ones sometimes.
Yeah.
But I also feel that Europeans have more of a sense of identity than Americans, that they tend to know, I'm from here. Like, if you ask me where I'm from, I'm like, I don't know. I was born here, and then I lived here, and then I lived here, and then I studied here, and then I went there. My family comes from 6 different countries in Europe. They arrived at different times. They hid their history. You know, it's like, we don't know. You know, if you talk to my neighbor here, they're like, yeah, you know, my grandfather 600 years ago was named Juan, you know, whatever, you know. But it's like, they know everything, and they have a sense of identity that's different from Americans. And I think that's why America, you know, the United States struggles with a lot of problems that other countries don't struggle with. I think a lot of it comes down to lack of identity and lack of community.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, but we also have so many different communities. I mean, that's a big
never-ending story.
Never-ending story. But as far as music goes, you know, I try to seek balance in my learning. So if I know that my nature is to say, oh, okay, this rhythm, you know, doom back ticka doom doom back ticka doom back ticka doom doom back. What if we add 2 beats to that, right? And we like doom back ticka doom doom back get that ticka doom doom back ticka doom doom. You know, that's my nature, is to like figure out, which I didn't invent that rhythm, by the way. I did not invent that. That is a rhythm that I've heard, but that's my nature. So if I'm studying from someone who's trying to teach me how to explore and open my mind and create new things, it's like an overload of one thing, and I'm not nourishing something that's essential, another part of me, which is the like color in the lines, tradition, folklore, focus, you know, like this kind of more, like you said, kind of in the box thinking. Yeah, when I'm studying music, what I'm seeking is this kind of rigidity and like tradition, and like, no, don't play that note, that's wrong. You have to do it the real authentic way. Because I know that naturally I'm going to disrupt that system. Yeah. You know, and I think it's an important thing about practicing, is like, we shouldn't go into the practice room and only work on the things that we're good at. Right? We should go into the practice room and really work on the things that we're not good at. You know, so that's what I'm kind of looking for when I'm studying. Yeah,
but that is sometimes not so fun.
I love
when you always practice something you don't. But of course, yeah.
I think, but it's only not fun in the beginning. Like what you said.
To start.
Right. You said you hear someone play, and you think, I'm never going to be able to play that well, and you're probably right. But you end up getting a lot better than you expected you would if you practice. Yeah. And I think that for me, I started learning this instrument called daf, which is like a Kurdish frame drum with rings on the inside, and you play it with your hands. And it was the first new instrument I had learned since bass. Right? So it had been, I don't know, 15 years of me just only playing bass. And this instrument was like an unclimbable mountain to me. It was like Mount Everest. Like, how can I learn a new instrument and play like these people? They're so good, and I'll never be that good. And then I went there to Turkey, and I lived there for 3 months, and I took lessons all day, every day with my teacher. And when I left, I was so much better at the instrument than I ever thought I would have been. I still suck, but I was way better than I thought I would be. Yeah. And I felt, well, if I can do it with this instrument, I can do it with another instrument. And so I started learning it. And it's like one of these things where once you learn how to learn, you stop being scared. Yeah, yeah. It's just the first time kind of hurts.
The
like
first step.
Right.
But I kind of love to struggle. Because then afterwards, in the pandemic, for example, when we have to, in the quarantine, I started to juggle. And first with 2, then with 3, and now I've got 4. And now I'm challenging myself with like a balance board and juggle. So I'm always trying to go one step further. And it's a lot of fun.
I love that. I never got past 3. Yeah. I want to see if you need to, can you do it now? Do you have 4?
Wait a minute.
Do it. Get him. Oh, yeah.
So I've got 3 over here. And this is my 4th. Can you see it? No.
I see you perfectly, yeah. And I'm... Whoa.
But I've never done it while sitting. That's a new challenge for me.
Yeah, nice. Can you do the one where you keep one ball on the outside the whole time? The same ball?
Yeah, it's like...
Hey.
And then I've got another trick under my under my feet.
Oh!
So these are my challenges in the quarantine.
Nice.
Because
why practice bass? Why practice bass? And it takes groove, I think.
Yeah.
To juggle, you have to be thinking. It's not that different from grooving, really, because you have to be thinking about what's coming ahead and and thinking big picture, but managing small things. And I think it's cool. Yeah.
Do you know what you would do if you were not a musician, or not write music or anything with music?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely not be a juggler. I'm not good enough. Maybe you would. I wouldn't. I would. I really love writing. You know, like, so maybe being a journalist or a writer, that would be fun. I really love to cook.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, that could be fun. I've thought about just doing like aid work. I feel like that's something that, or education. Like I like watching people grow in you know. But I think probably I also really love like film direction. I really like that a lot.
So a creative, something creative.
Yeah, it would be creative. It wouldn't be like, a post office person or something. But you know, since I moved here, me and 2 of my friends from the village, we bought like little grapevines, like 145 of them or something, and we planted them. So we have like a little, you know, in the future, maybe we'll have grapes that are like drinkable, you know, for wine. And I'm really like excited about that. Like I have a feeling like, you know, that would be a good, I mean, I'll never retire, I think, from music because I love it too much. But like, you know, if I were to retire, that would be a good retirement plan. Just like making wine. That'd be really nice.
It sounds good. But wine with music is a good combination.
Even better. Even better. Yeah. I mean, I think ours probably won't even be drinkable, you know, but it's at least fun to like go every weekend and sweat and, you know, build fences and, you know, whatever, stuff like that.
So what are your plans for, or do you have plans for the next couple of years or this year? What's coming up?
So this year, it's 2021, and I would love to, well, my plan this year is basically to produce 12 records, so to do a record a month. Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, artists from all over the world, different genres, like this is kind of my... it started with my solo record. That was the first one. And then I just finished another one. And the idea is basically just because, you know, we're not touring this year. So I wanted to really challenge myself as a producer, which is like my favorite thing to do these days, you know, to compose and produce. So
really cool. So a lot of things are planned. What about the festival? Do you know?
Yes. Yeah. So we have this festival called Ground Up Music Festival that happens every year in Miami Beach.
Yeah.
Which absolutely, Julia, you should come to. You're more than invited.
Thank you.
I'll give you $5 off. No, I'm just kidding.
I would pay $5 more.
No. It's on the house. Which is a really super fun festival, and the idea behind the festival is super stimulating for me, because the idea is like, okay, well, every festival has the same people playing at it every year because those people sell tickets, right? Generally, they're great musicians and they sell tickets. Yeah. But why don't we try to find musicians that don't sell tickets that are also great? You know, to kind of create a space where people can come and discover musicians that they've never heard of. That's the point of the festival. But so this year, it's obviously complicated. So what we're going to do is like a tiny, mini version of the festival right here in my village where I live in Catalonia in Spain.
Oh, really?
Tiny version.
Okay, yeah.
No one's allowed to come except the residents of the village. I thought it'd be nice to just have the artists play for them only, totally free, and we're gonna stream it and record it, and we'll sell that to the world.
Cool.
You know, so anyone in
Wow.
the world technically can come to the festival, but no one's allowed in the village. You know, just to be safe. We want to be safe, and all the artists are going to be artists that are either based here or nearby that they can drive.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be tiny, but it'll be. You know, it's a beautiful little place, you know, so to have a concert in the bar or in the church or next to the orchard or whatever will be really nice. So that's our plan, yeah.
Nice. Wow. So a lot of things coming up. And
Yeah.
I'm really excited about the album. Pretty excited.
Which album?
Your album.
Oh my God. Don't get your hopes up, Julie. Do not get your hopes up. Don't do it.
I don't know, anything you want to add?
No, I'm cool. I mean, you already know by now that I'll talk about whatever you want me to talk about. So just ask me whatever you want, and I got you.
We will talk about instruments later on, but
Okay.
for this video, thank you very much for all the answers and for spending some time with us. Thank you guys for watching. I hope that I see you very soon, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thanks for
everyone.
having me.
Thank
Bye.
you, Michael Leek.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice.